7th straight quarter of profit.
Commercial?
Commercial business, like exploding. 70% growth year over year.
It's crazy.
Government contracts just piling up. It's like they're printing money at this point.
Yeah. And that's, I think, what's so interesting, right? Because we've all seen these hype cycles in tech where it's like, oh, it's AI this and it's blockchain that.
Everyone's promising the moon.
Right. But Palantir seems to be kind of quietly actually delivering on some of these promises.
Quietly delivering. That's a good way to put it. They're not, they're not the flashiest company out there.
Yeah.
But the results, you can't argue with the result.
Exactly. So let's get past the headlines for a second, right? Because anyone can cherry pick impressive stats, make a fancy chart.
Yeah, so
what I'm really curious about, I think what our listeners are really here for is like, why? Why is Palantir succeeding where others are kind of, I don't know, maybe stumbling is too strong a word, but not having this level of success, let's say?
Yeah, I think stumbling is fair in some cases because we've seen a lot of companies sort of buy into their own hype, right? Mm-hmm. And then the product doesn't quite,
doesn't quite meet the hype.
And that's where I think Palantir is so interesting because they're laser focused on building practical enterprise-grade solutions and, solving real-world problems.
So less about the flashy PowerPoint presentation, more about the nuts and bolts of actually making stuff work in the real world.
Exactly. And they're not afraid to get their hands dirty. They're in the trenches with their customers, figuring how to apply these really complex technologies to these really messy, complicated problems.
Give me an example, because I'm starting to get it, but I need to wrap my head around a concrete example.
Okay, so think about Tampa General Hospital.
All right.
They partnered with Palantir to build what they call a care coordination operating system.
Okay.
Not just another piece of software, but a system designed to understand and optimize the incredibly complex world of patient care.
And we're talking about a real impact here, like actual results, not just some theoretical, we can improve things by...
Real impact, real results. They've managed to reduce patient stays by 30%.
30%.
30%, which is massive, right?
Yeah.
Not just in terms of cost savings for the hospital, but in terms of patient outcomes.
Okay, color me intrigued, because 30%, that's a game changer. That's not just, we made a little tweak.
Yeah, that's a fundamental shift.
So Tampa General, is this typical of what you're seeing from Palantir, or is this kind of like the one shining example?
No, I mean, it's definitely not an outlier. We see it across industries.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got Panasonic Energy using Palantir to streamline their manufacturing. You've got a wholesale insurance firm that, get this, they signed a 7-figure production deal just 16 days after starting a Palantir boot camp.
16 days.
16 days.
All right, now that is approaching warp speed. What's the common thread here? Because it sounds like Palantir is working some kind of magic.
It's not magic, though. I get why it seems that way. It really comes down to their unique approach to technology, specifically their emphasis on what they call ontology and the OSDK.
All right, you've piqued my curiosity. Those sound like terms that only a software engineer could love. Break it down for me. Ontology, OSDK. What are we talking about here, and how does this tie into these success stories?
Okay, so imagine if your entire business could run with the seamless integration and efficiency of your smartphone, right?
Okay, yeah.
That's the kind of transformation Palantir is enabling. Now, their ontology is like building a digital twin of your entire organization. Think of it as a detailed map that captures not just the individual parts of your business, but how they all connect and interact, all those intricate relationships.
So it's not just about digitizing information, it's about understanding the relationships, the dependencies within a complex system, like healthcare or manufacturing.
Exactly. And that's where the OSDK comes in.
Yeah.
The Ontology Software Development Kit. It's like handing your developers the tools to build applications that are deeply intertwined with that digital twin, with those intricate relationships you just mentioned.
So instead of these siloed applications that only address one specific task, we're talking about software that understands the bigger picture, the interconnected nature of an entire organization.
You got it. And that is a radical departure from how most businesses are using software today.
I bet. And this is starting to make a lot of sense now, because it's not just about AI for AI's sake, right? It's about having this deep understanding of the problems you're trying to solve, and then building solutions that are seamlessly integrated with the way organizations actually work.
You've hit the nail on the head. It's about bridging that gap between theoretical potential and practical real-world results.
This ontology thing, this is really like clicking for me now, It's like they're taking all this complexity, all these moving parts of a modern organization and somehow making it, I don't know, manageable, almost elegant.
Yeah, it's a very different way of thinking about software.
But it's still software, right?
Yeah.
So where does the rubber meet the road? Like where are they actually, putting this into action? Where are we seeing this play out?
So one area where Palantir is really making waves, and this ties directly into that ontology-driven approach we were just talking about, is in American manufacturing.
Okay.
They've launched this initiative called Warp Speed, and it's fascinating on a couple of levels.
All right, Warp Speed, that definitely has my attention. And we hear a lot about revitalizing American manufacturing, right? But it seems like so often software ends up being the bottleneck.
That's true.
We've got the skilled workers, we've got the desire to bring manufacturing back, but then the software just can't keep up.
You've hit on a really crucial point, and it's something that Palantir understands, I think, better than a lot of companies.
Yeah.
They're looking at these traditional manufacturing software systems, like old school ERP systems, and they're saying, look, these were built for a different era.
Right.
They're clunky. They're often focused more on the finance side of things, tracking costs and inventory instead of the actual production process.
Yeah. Right, which is kind of backwards when you think about it.
Totally. And they struggle, these old systems, they just struggle to keep up with the demands of modern, complex manufacturing.
So what's the Palantir solution here? Are they just building a better ERP system?
It's more radical than that. This is what I find so interesting about them. They're basically arguing that the entire way we think about manufacturing software needs an overhaul.
Okay.
They point to companies like SpaceX. Right? SpaceX actually built their own custom ERP system from the ground up.
Wow.
Because the off-the-shelf options were so inadequate.
That's a pretty bold statement, but I guess if anyone can pull off that kind of software revolution, it's probably the folks at SpaceX.
Exactly. They have the engineering talent, they have the resources, and they understand that the software is just as important as the rockets themselves. Right?
Absolutely.
And that's what Palantir is trying to bring to the broader manufacturing world, this Warp Speed initiative. They want to build that next generation manufacturing operating system, grounded in their ontology, their AI capabilities, and give manufacturers the tools to not just manage data, but to truly understand and optimize every aspect of their operations.
Okay, so paint a picture for me here. I'm picturing some engineer on the factory floor, but instead of a clipboard, they've got, I don't know, a tablet running some Palantir software.
Yeah.
What are they seeing? What kind of insights are we talking about?
Think about things like being able to optimize supply chains in real time.
Okay.
Anticipating and preventing production bottlenecks before they even happen. Using AI to personalize product design based on real-time customer data.
Okay, now that's what I call smart manufacturing. That's finally bringing manufacturing into the 21st century.
Exactly. It's about connecting the dots, right, between the factory floor, the design lab, customer demand, and everything in between. It's about making smarter decisions faster and being more adaptable to change.
And this is where I think it gets really interesting, because we talk about efficiency, we talk about optimization, but there's a human side to this as well, right?
100%.
What does this mean for the people who actually work in these factories, in these manufacturing facilities?
And Palantir acknowledges that. They're very clear that their technology is only as good as the people using it. Right.
Right.
So it's not about replacing workers with AI. It's about empowering those workers with better information, with better tools, so they can make smarter decisions.
That's a crucial distinction, because we've all seen those dystopian sci-fi movies, right? Where it's the machines take over. So it's reassuring to hear that, at least, in Palantir's vision, it's more about augmenting human capabilities, not replacing them entirely.
That's exactly it. They often talk about their technology being a force multiplier, right? Meaning it can help people achieve more than they ever could on their own. And that actually brings us to another area where Palantir's having a significant impact. And this might be a little bit of a shift in focus, but I think it's all connected.
Let me guess. This is where we delve into the world of national security.
You got it. Palantir's roots run deep in the intelligence community. And their work in this arena is, well, it's as crucial as ever in today's, complex and rapidly changing geopolitical landscape.
National security. All right, now we're getting into the really high stakes stuff,
Yeah, the stakes get a lot higher.
It's a little intimidating to think about to be honest, AI being used in those kinds of scenarios.
It's understandable to feel that way. I mean, we're talking about incredibly complex situations, very sensitive situations with, potentially huge consequences.
Exactly. And we've all seen the headlines, right? The debates about AI and warfare, autonomous weapon systems, all that all that kind of scary stuff.
Right. It's easy to get pulled into those dystopian scenarios.
It is. So where does Palantir stand in all of this? Because they're clearly a major player in this world.
They are, and it's something that, Alex Karp, the CEO, he addressed this directly in the earnings call. We were talking about the escalating tensions, the violence in the Middle East, and he was very clear about Palantir's commitment to, supporting the U.S. and its allies in the region.
So they're not shying away from the role that their technology is playing in these really sensitive situations?
Not at all. But, and this is crucial, I think, they're also very vocal about, the importance of using this technology responsibly, ethically.
Okay.
They've aligned themselves very clearly, with democratic values, with the rule of law, and they emphasize the need for human oversight in any situation where AI is being used, especially in these high stakes scenarios.
That's reassuring to hear, because it's one thing to talk about, AI in the abstract, but when you start thinking about real world applications, and especially in national security, like those ethical considerations, they're not just theoretical anymore.
They're not. They're very, very real.
They're life and death.
Exactly.
And it sounds like Palantir, at least they're aware of that. They're trying to navigate that, which is, I don't know if reassuring is the right word, but it's something.
It's a start, right? And I think, they recognize that their long-term success is dependent on maintaining that trust, both with their customers and with the public at large.
Right, because if you lose that trust, it's game over.
Exactly, especially in this kind of climate where there's so much, mistrust, there's so much misinformation.
Yeah, it feels like they're walking a tightrope in a lot of ways, balancing these incredibly powerful technologies, these capabilities that, just a few years ago would have seemed like science fiction.
Oh, absolutely.
With this need for responsibility, for transparency, for ethics.
It's a tough balance to strike.
It is. So where does all of this leave us as we kind of come to the end of our deep dive here? What are the key takeaways you hope our listener is walking away with?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is that Palantir it's more than just another tech company. They're not just chasing the latest trends. They're building tools that are changing the way we think about everything.
Yeah.
From healthcare to manufacturing to, like we've been talking about, national security. And not just building tools, but really grappling with the implications of those tools, right? The ethical considerations, the long-term impact on society, on all of us.
And it's not just, some academic exercise for them. They're having to make these decisions in real time with real consequences.
Right. They're on the front lines of this technological revolution, and we're all kind of along for the ride in a way.
It's both exciting and if we're being honest, a little bit terrifying, because we don't know where it's going to go.
We don't. That's the truth. But that's the world we live in now, a world that's being reshaped by these technologies that we're only just beginning to understand.
Well, on that note, I think we'll leave our listener with a bit of homework, Keep an eye on Palantir, not just for, their financial performance, their stock price, but for the bigger picture, what their success or even their failures might mean for the future.
Yeah, pay attention, because this is bigger than just one company.
It is.
This is about, the future of our world.
Well said. Well said. It's been quite a journey.